We're going to talk to Marcus, who is calling in from Texas. Marcus, you're live on Truth Wanted. What's up?
Hey, Dan, and hi, Brennon. Good to see you on the show. I've never been on a show myself, so I can imagine it's kind of nervous, but I think you're doing a great job. So,
thank you very much.
Yeah, I just had a. Oh, you're welcome. I had a kind of a weird question. I know it might be a little bit off topic, but I know recently in the news, a lot of people probably saw what was happening with like the Alex Jones legal decision and him having to pay almost $1 billion because of these conspiracy theories that he had been propagating through his media. And I guess my question is, it seems like this should be some sort of a cautionary tale to people that if you're going to start spreading these sorts of things around, you're going to be liable either financially or in some other way for the things that you say. But I'm wondering if, and I'd like to hear what kind of both of you have to think about this, is this going to really be anything that's going to make people think twice about doing this? Or do you think that people will just continue to push their conspiracy theories irregardless?
Man, that's a great question. The truth is, this is a really unprecedented situation, right? Not only is this lawsuit incredibly huge, one of the biggest ones in American history over a situation like this, it's also talking about events that happened several years ago, almost a decade ago, right? Is when the Sandy Hook shootings originally happened and when Jones made the statements, and now we're finally catching up to it. I mean, the law really had to go through this whole process with all these families to finally see consequences for actions like this. So I don't know what the precedent is going to be set for stuff in the future. The thing about Alex Jones is he runs InfoWars, which is one of the largest conspiracy theory promoting websites, not only in the United States, but in the world. He has an audience of over 1 million people that look at his stuff all the time, and there's other websites that will promote stuff that's just as dangerous but maybe don't have the kind of presence that he does. So I think you could clearly make the case there that of course Jones's rhetoric was inspiration for other people to do the actions that they did because they have a long time trust in Jones. He's been on the air for a really really long time. So I don't know. I don't know what the future is going to behold. I want people to be held accountable for shit like this. Obviously, Alex Jones is a piece of shit and he can go fuck himself. I don't really care about him. But I hope, if anything, other people will see that this is going to be really bad news for you, especially if you're not careful. Just talking about random ass bullshit on the air. But anyway, Brendan, what are your thoughts on the Alex Jones stuff?
Well, if history is anything to go off of, unfortunately, when you challenge people on their horrendous, awful beliefs, normally they double down.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got a strong belief that not only is this going to embolden Jones, but it's likely going to embolden people like Jones. As it's, of course, going to just be yet another layer on top of their beliefs that everything in the United States is corrupt. And that they are the grassroots movement that's going to fix it, when in reality they're only impeding justice and actively harming us. The truth of the matter is that the damage done by Jones is incalculable, and the true cost of what has happened because of him being represented by this $1 billion figure, regardless if that's what he ends up paying or not. It shows that the people involved and the jurors especially understand the ramifications of what he has done and what he said. Now, whether or not that's going to translate into a better dynamic with these people in our society in the future, I don't mean to say these people derogatorily, but people who have a proclivity to this kind of conspiratorial ideology, I certainly hope that we have better accountability for media in general, and especially this like tabloid rag that is the entirety of this Alex Jones sphere.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. And you brought up a good point too, Brandon, which is that already people are saying, oh, the reason why he's having to pay so much is also just because the world is out to get him because he was speaking the truth, or that he wasn't actually responsible for these things. He's just trying to figure out the truth. I mean, there's a lot of people that are going at these angles too. In fact, Jones is already doing this himself. They brought this up in the defamation trial, right? He was making memes about the judge and saying how she's an awful human being, and also about the witnesses in the case. And they brought this up in the case itself to talk about how Jones is a bad faith actor and isn't taking any of this stuff seriously. I mean, I do think something is like mentally wrong with him, right? Like I think that's pretty obvious. That's pretty apparent. But for him to have the platform that he does and the damage that he's done, you're right. It's incalculable. I think the only you have to be really brazen and really, quite frankly, stupid, but also just really, really brazen to do what he's done. And America loves those kinds of people. If politics in the last 10 years has shown us anything, is that America openly embraces people that who they deem are challenging the system, when in reality they really are just grifting other human beings. The story's been told time and time again, and it's going to be told again.
Yeah.
But that's
Maybe
our
we'll
takes
learn
on
this
it.
time.
Yeah. What do you think, Marcus?
I mean, yeah, I kind of agree. And I kind of had a follow-up question, if I may, and I'll make it real quick. One of the things, and I guess, yeah, I agree with you on Alex Jones being the waste of humanity that he seems to be. But I guess this follows up a little bit with maybe the perception part that you were talking about. One of the things that I guess not affected me, but like surprised me the most, because this is not his first set of legal problems, was before, I think it was in his divorce, when he tried to portray himself as, oh, I'm just an actor. This is not really what I'm saying is not really what I'm.
Yes. Let me clarify on that. I've seen other hosts from this community that have talked about this information, and they've done it incorrectly. The problem is I just know way too much about Alex Jones, right? So the case that happened there was a divorce court thing, right? Figuring out, assets, kids, all that kind of stuff that happens. Jones did not actually testify to this fact, right? Jones was not saying that he was an actor and that this is what he said. He actually didn't testify at all in that case. It was his lawyer that was making the argument in that case. And in fact, in previous legal stuff that's happened with Jones, he usually hasn't testified in a lot of stuff. He has testified in some of the more recent stuff, and starting with the deposition trials, what happening in Sandy Hook. I don't know why. I guess he felt like he wanted to. But yeah, there's a bit of misinformation that goes on there, that where people are saying, oh, well, Jones actively admits that he's an actor. As someone who's gotten the opportunity to see Alex Jones in real life, and as someone who has followed his work for a few years now, I can tell you, I think he seriously believes a lot of the stuff that he says. I know that he over exaggerates way too much and will make shit up on the fly, but I really do think he thinks that there is something bigger and grander going on, even if he gets the details wrong or exaggerates some of those details. So people who say like, oh, he just knows that he's faking, I'm not convinced of that personally. But he hasn't testified to that either. So.
Okay. Well, I mean, I did not know, and maybe I was just kind of going on what I heard. But now, I guess now that I know you are the paragon of Alex Jones knowledge, I feel like the next time he does something stupid, which will probably be pretty soon, I'll give you a call back and maybe get your reaction on that. But yeah, thanks for taking my call. And I know you got to wrap up the show, but yeah, thanks, Dan. Thanks, Brennan. Have a good night.
Thank you, Marcus. Thanks for calling in on that. But yeah, you want to know when Alex Jones does something stupid? It's every day. It really is every day. And I'm not even
probably
exaggerating.
Before the show's over.
Well, his show happens every weekday for 4 hours a day. And he hosts for usually 3 of those 4 hours. And it's just him talking. Like one of the podcasts, a guest who is on, Jordan Holmes, called Knowledge Fight, examines some of the rhetoric that Jones uses every day. And he's constantly saying, I mean, there is clippable moments that happen pretty much every day on that show. He just says so much of it, and to be honest, the people who aren't going to buy his crap aren't watching his show, so nobody really knows about a lot of it. But man, he has said some awful,
If I could
awful things.
add
Yeah, go
in
ahead.
real quick.
Yeah,
So there was a very meme moment from him a while ago where he is very up in arms and very agitated and very energetic, and he says that they're putting chemicals in the water that are turning the frogs gay.
yeah.
And obviously that's laughable to phrase it like that, but in actuality, while his phrasing is absurd and obtuse, it's true. Some of the pesticides that were being used in farming operations were actually causing frogs to develop both sets of reproductive organs. So lots of frogs were developing into sexual maturity and having several sets of testes and several sets of ovaries that were developing in like simultaneity between these, seemingly normal frogs, and it was caused by runoff from fertilizer. And it could have come across so much better from him. And of course, it wasn't
Well,
something that was widely touched on at the time either.
yeah. Well, this is the problem, right? Because that is probably Alex Jones's most infamous viral clip, I would say. I think that's the one that people most commonly associate with him. And it's really an off the cuff moment. First of all, he has said wilder things than that. But the problem with that clip is that because of that underlying grain of truth that you're talking about, in which, yes, there were tests for gay bombs, there were tests for that happened to change the chemical makeup and things with frogs. People have said, "Oh, well, wait a minute, maybe this Alex Jones guy is on to something." That clip has actually probably brought more business to him than we could ever expect it to, because people will find that Wikipedia article on gay bombs or something, or look at the history of that clip and see that there is something to it. So it's those half truths that are actually the most dangerous. And really one of the most awful things about this whole Sandy Hook stuff is, at the time when it was happening, information changes as the story was progressing. And when that happens, when new things are figured out, people will see that as, oh, this must be a conspiracy. There must be some sort of cover up. They don't want us to figure out the truth when we haven't even assessed the full situation on things, which is why there's still people, even after this entire trial series of trials has happened, that still say that the Sandy Hook stuff didn't actually happen as mainstream news media has reported, and that there were actors or holograms being used. So it is incredibly sad. It is very sad. But some people are just going to want to believe what they want to believe. And I don't know what to do about that. I don't know if anybody does.